Now, they say the test of any system is whether or not you need a manual to make it work. And judging by the number of errors that are still being made on entering trial lessons at evening groups, then clearly this part of the system I have failed miserably. So we made some changes, and this video is to go through the changes so that everybody's familiar with them by the next time you come to act as a duty clerk. The first thing you'll notice is that the number of buttons that you need to press have been significantly reduced. We have removed totally the trial lesson button and the evening group button and the walk-on button. These are all handled differently from now on in. And where you need to look for these is in the tabbed area at the top. At the moment we're on today's log. We've got the customary completed flights log, which is where you'll find all the flights that have landed. And we have two new tabs now, today's log and evening groups. Today's TLs, sorry, not today's log, today's TLs and evening groups. You'll notice in the today's TLs, there is a flight that has already been booked in by the office. And you'll also note that on the bottom there are some options. Number one, somebody has just arrived on site who has a voucher but is not in this list, so they've just turned up unannounced. Somebody has walked on site who doesn't have a voucher and has just turned up announced. They've got no voucher, so therefore they are a walk-on. Forget the evening group button, that's going to be moved shortly. And the third option is he's had a trial lesson at some point in the past and he's returning as a temporary member. As a duty clerk, you need to find out which the person that's in front of you, which bill he fits, if you like, before we make a decision as to which button to press. And finally, and people who've used the iPad version will know all about these, there are two buttons that you can press. One is collect payment and the other one is prepare the flight record. If the line is red, then you should make sure you collect the payment before the person flies. You'll also notice quickly, because I did it accidentally, that if I roll my mouse over an individual line, then some additional information pops up. The main one being that the number of flights taken for this person is 0, so that's okay, we can fly him. What I'm going to do first of all though is to say that we've had a walk-on, somebody who's come onto site, wants a flight, doesn't have a voucher, never booked in through the office, so we click on no voucher, a walk-on. This will prompt us for some information. First thing we need to do is to select the product, which will normally be a single flight voucher. We put the name on the voucher. Doesn't matter about capitals or anything like that. And at the moment we'll assume that the weather's a bit iffy. We've decided not to collect the money until a bit closer to the flight time. We click on create and the person comes into the list and you'll see immediately that they are red. Now I'm going to follow the usual pattern of operation. Okay, they've arrived on site, they're on the bus, we've booked them in the system. We need to go back to today's log because we have to get somebody into the air, and you can see that I'm sat in my aircraft waiting to fly. Ha ha ha, chance will be a fine thing. So I'm just going to click the button and set that one going. Okay, so now then, there's another aircraft available, and it's the trial lesson instructor for the day. So we're going to go back to today's trial lessons and we're going to select the person to fly. You'll immediately see that if it's Helen Reddy, then she is still in red and we still need to make sure that we collect the payment before she flies. So what I'm going to do now is click on collect payment, and all I need to do is select the payment method, and we'll say she's paying cash, which they usually do. Click save and then return to the list, and you'll see that she's immediately gone black. So there's no problem now, she can fly. And what I'm going to do is now prepare the flight record. Click on prepare flight record, enter the P2 in the normal way and the aircraft, click create, and then if you go back to today's log you'll see that they're in the aircraft at the launch point, ready, marked up, waiting to fly. So let's just repeat that exercise, and we've got another spare aircraft and a spare instructor, so we'll just get Fred Smith ready. He's already paid because he's black, so we just need to go and prepare the flight record for Fred Smith. We'll put him in with Chris Knapp. And we'll put him in KRB. Create the record. Go back to today's log and we'll find that he's there sat at the launch point. And because we're in this test centre and I know the data is out of date, we'll ignore the fact that Chris is red and needs a medical because he doesn't. But essentially that's all there is to it. You will find everything you need for today's TLs under the TLs button. So let's assume one more thing. Let's assume somebody's turned up. They have a voucher. They're just not in the list because they've turned up on spec without calling the office first. So again, we click has voucher but not in list. The system will then attempt to help you to try and find that person. And I'm going to look for somebody called Barda. And you'll see we have two. So it's Mr. Douglas Barda with a 2-flight lesson who's returning for his second flight. We tick him, we click OK, and that again puts him in the list. So we can leave him there, carry on flying, launch the members, and when it's Mr. Barda's turn to fly, we return to today's TL. We can see immediately that his flights, he's got a 2-flight voucher and the flight taken is 1. So we prepare the flight record. We assign him a P1. We'll put him in Warwick Horn on this one. And we'll put him in KHW. So we're having a good day. All the aircraft are in use. Click on create. And once again, if you return to today's log, you'll find him in the list waiting to fly. There is a slight gremlin at the moment and the buttons keep disappearing, so just click the refresh button at the bottom and they will reappear as if by magic. And from that point on, we can go ahead and we can launch flights in the usual way. And we can land flights in the usual way as well. So I'll just land me. And of course, I would immediately have been removed to the completed flight section. Everything else works as it has done in the past. So this should help us overcome the problem of not getting the trial lessons in correctly, which will really ease the burden on Shirley in the office, who has to check the trial lessons daily to make sure they're all correct. Finally, I'm going to show you the evening group section. This is the one that's been causing the most angst over the summer months. Again, we've removed the evening group buttons here, so you cannot enter a flight from this section. You have to go through the evening group tab. And you'll notice there's a button at the bottom that says add to group. So I'm going to just add a few names here. I'm going to press the pause button while I do it. So I'm going to assume that it's the start of the evening group day. They've all gathered around the bus, and the duty clerk now is quickly finding out who all the names are and entering in the list so that we can quickly select them for flying later on that night. Okay, so I've put 3 in the list. I'm just going to add 1 as an exercise. We go to the bottom, we click on add to the group. We select the product, and a little thing to watch out for here. Normally it's an evening group £45. Occasionally it's an evening group excluding food. So you would select the £39 one. Just make sure you get the product right, because the evening group members rate is the same price as the evening group excluding food. So it's quite important that you do get that right. Otherwise, we end up not paying John enough for the food that is provided. But for now, we'll just put it's an evening group £45. We'll type in the name of the person who wants to fly. You can always tell what I was doing last Sunday, can't you? And we click on the create button. You'll get a message at this time saying, do you want to enter the flight record? We'll just say no for now. And we'll click the refresh button and the name will appear in the list. Now, back to today's log. So it's evening group, everything's set up. The first flight is due to launch. You'll notice, as I keep repeating, the buttons have disappeared from here. That's to force everybody to go back to the evening group tab. And we normally click on prepare the flight. You'll see the collect payment button there. It's not normal that we collect payments for the flights at the launch point on an evening group, as you well know. We normally collect them later on in the bar. But it does mean that you can log on to the computer down in the club room, and as the money is collected, we can go on and we can mark each person as having paid. I'll show you that later. But for now, we're just going to prepare the flight record. It's exactly the same as for a trial lesson, except that the evening group are now all lumped together under one tab and not mixed up with today's TLs. So there should be less errors. We simply prepare the flight record in the usual way. Select a P1, and I'm running out of aircraft to launch now. I'll probably get an error message here. And so if we see that the flight is there, ready to launch. Again, we ignore the fact that it's not paid because it's an evening group. He will be paying later. So we just push them in the air as we would do any other flight. Let's get rid of a few more. Now, come the end of the night, down at the clubhouse, we simply need to log into the club room computer, go back to evening groups, collect the payments for the members, and come onto the system and mark them as paid. Just simply click on collect payments, and again, in the same way as we've done for trial lessons, select the payment method and click save. Click on back, and again you've got a visual check because that person now turns black, so you can now go around to all the rest of the evening group members and collect the payments from them as well. That's it. Thank you for watching. Speak to you all soon. Bye.